size keywords, the interface and implementation declarations, protocols, the self keyword, and the ID keyword. Now the term messaging refers to sending a message to an object. As you can see, this is similar to executing a method in C++ and Java. Note the square brackets used when sending a message to an object. Now when messaging with parameters in Objective-C, you can see that we place a colon before the parameter, and when executing a parameter we use multiple identifiers. These can actually be anonymous, in which case just colons are used to separate parameters. But typically in the iPhone SDK each parameter is identified, and that will make things more readable if you follow that. Now, in nested messaging, the innermost brackets are done first, and then what is returned is used within the next set of brackets. It's considered to be poor practice to send more than 2 messages on one line. Now the import statement is just like other import and include statements that you'll see in Java and C++. Now the difference being between C and C++ and Objective-C is that you do not have to create include guards. So don't worry if you don't understand what I'm talking about. You just don't need to include them. Now method headers can look a bit odd in Objective-C if this is the first time you've seen them. The plus or minus at the start of a method header indicates whether a method is static or not, plus being static, minus being not static, and the return type is placed in round brackets, and so are the data types for the method parameters. Now basic inheritance is declared by placing the parent class you are inheriting from to the right of the class name in the class interface declaration following a colon. And protocols are placed in diagonal brackets to the right and separated by commas. There's no multiple inheritance in Objective-C, and other than that, the syntax is virtually the same as C++. The property declaration is used for the easy creation of getters and setters for a specific variable, because all class-wide variables are encapsulated in Objective-C. Now the most basic syntax is shown here. I won't get into the access and storage semantics you often see in brackets beside the property name, because it's not really necessary at this point. As we go through more examples, you'll learn about this. So I will get into this in future tutorials. You use variables with getters and setters declared using property by using the dot syntax, where you place the object name and then a dot before the variable name. The interface declaration is where you declare the class name, inheritance, variables, and methods, pretty much what you'd put in a C++ header file, along with the property declarations. Essentially, this is the blueprint for your class. Now, the @synthesize declaration is used to synthesize the getters and setters that you set up using the property directive. It's placed in the class implementation. Now the implementation is the actual class implementation, and this is where you place the actual code for your class methods. Now protocols are very similar to interfaces in Java and C++. They're used in order for an object to be communicated with in a more generic manner. I'm not going to get into the specifics here, but essentially a protocol is a list of methods that can be implemented by a class, and this can either be optional or forced implementation, and when a class adheres to a specific protocol, other classes know that they can communicate with that class by using the methods declared within that protocol. I highly suggest you look up information on Java and C++ interfaces if you'd like more specific information. Okay, the self keyword refers back to the current object. In order to call a non-static method in Objective-C, you always need to specify the object. So you have to use a self keyword when referring to the same object. It's just like the this keyword that you'll see in Java and C++. The ID keyword is just a generic identifier used to refer to any object. And it's similar to a void star pointer in C++, and it's similar to the object keyword